Hello and welcome to week 6 of the OTR Love Team Time Trial series. My name is Andy and I'll take you through the highlight show. So for week 6 we have 11 teams. There was an issue with one of the teams, so we're not going to be able to see the start for them. So as usual, let's have a look at RTR, Australia Koalas, OTR Eureka and OTR Wicked. 5 seconds to go. 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Right then, so which team gets into their pace line? So looking at Eureka, the 4 guys, we got Alfred, Brian, Stephen and Johan. They're into the pace line already, which is really, really good. Very similar to R2R, but there's a bit of gap at the back, but they're going to close that up. So RTR have been probably the team that's progressed the most from League 3. So well done, guys. But you do need to close those gaps. Looking at OTR Wicked, they're now back in that pace line, which is fantastic to see, and same for Australia Koalas. Although there is a gap from Wendy through to Michelle of something like 11 meters, but again, they're going to close that up, so super efforts. So as I said, we've lost one team because there was a problem with the recording, but again, thank you very much everyone for doing recordings for the highlight show. Really appreciate it. So looking at Quokkas, Ultraviolet and Mushroom. Off they go. So for Mushroom, we have JP, so Wayne's on the front now. You've got JP, Rajesh, DJ and Fred. DJ is the Jeffries, one of them, but we all call him DJ. And for Quokkas, so I was able to record Quokkas and get Dingoes as well. So for Quokkas, we got Dan, Peter, Tim, Steve and Toby, and Dingoes is the team that we didn't have the first section of the ride. And for Ultraviolet, you have Jonathan. We don't, do we? So we have Jim, Adrian, Neil, Tony, and Lutz. And Lutz is doing the recording. So thanks, Lutz, for that. For the last bit, you have OTR Black, AESRT, and Peddlers. So which one of these 3 is going to top our highlight show? Be interesting to find out. Or will Mushroom play a part in this as well? So for AESRT, you have Roman, Arnud, Joan, Cyril, Jojo, and Aku. Peddlers, you've got Christoph, Doug, Daniel, and Henrik. No John Beams this week. And OTR Black, as usual, you've got Kevin, Keith, Peter, Tony, Per, and Nesta. Great to see Nesta and Per back in the team after their travels. Looking at the lineup, so again, great pace lines. Peddlers near AESRT, wanting to be in the middle of the road, which is much better if you're recording, so you don't get hit by all the trees. Otherwise, you've got to record a view of the team from the side, because the trees do get in the way. Excuse me. So from the 5k splits, looking at what we got so far, I think we got four splits in the show: 5, 10, 15 and 20. And then the finish, last 2 kilometers for each of the teams as well. So for RTR, we have dropped Sean. I know Sean looked as though he had some technicals as well, so that's probably why he's been dropped. But Tony's on the front with, who is it, Philip? Andrew's there, so Andrew's replacing Glenn for this week. So hopefully we can see Andrew more often. Carolyn's there, as well as Mark. So again, super strong effort from RTR this week. OTR Eureka, we have Alfred. So Joan is dropping slightly, so he's about 17 metres behind Stephen at the moment. So Stephen, Alfred and Brian are there, but Stephen looks as though he is out on his own, so we just need to sort that out and get the team back in again. OTR Wicked, we have this week Shane, Andrew, Paul, David, and I couldn't see the other rider, so just need to find out what that is. So here we go. You both got quackers and dingoes now. So for dingoes, we got Ash, Ben, Noel and Ian. Quackers, who's on front? So Steve's on front with Dan, then Peter, and then you got Tim and Toby. Who else? Mushroom. So JP's on the front, with Raj very close behind, with Wayne or King. But we do look as though we've dropped Fred. He must have had a technical at the beginning. And for Ultraviolet, Adrian, Tony, Neil, Jim and Lutz. As I say, Lutz is doing the recordings and doing a cracking job. So I think Lutz may be able to help with the highlight show going forward as well, which is fantastic to see. So thanks Lutz for all that. And no one dropping so far. So last of the 5k splits, OTR Black with Peter out front, Keith, Tony, Per, Nestor and Kevin. Peddlers, you got Daniel, Henrik's there with Christoph and Doug. And with AERCT, Jojo is out front. Cyril's closely followed behind with Jonan. And then Roman and Aku switching places, followed by Arnud. So AESRT is putting in a really strong effort. And I think it's Jonan is the first ride for Jonan with AESRT. So we need to watch this team because they're looking really strong for the League One at the moment. Closely followed by Peddlers, Black and Mushroom. Tony out in front with OTR Black. No gaps really with OTR Black. Really strong team. And as a number of people have said, OTR have got a series of teams. So you got OTR Wicked, OTR Black, OTR Blue, OTR Ultraviolet, and Eureka. So you got that level of competitiveness throughout, and the progression as well that you need within a really strong team. So looking at the 5k splits, you have AESRT at the front, but not a surprise there at the moment. Let's see if that changes as we go on. Looking at the 10k splits, Dave's out front with Michelle, then Wendy. Eureka, nothing really wrong so far. They had some awful times recently, so hopefully they'll be okay in this particular race. RTR looking strong again, but they have dropped due to technicals. Both Sean and Carolyn. Carolyn had a horrible technical. She just went into a ghost and dropped back significantly. She did try to get him back on, but it was just too far, too much to do. And OTR Wicked, no one's dropped so far, which is again fantastic to see. A really strong team as well from OTR, with Shane up front, Andrew, Andy, Paul. Gordon is riding for OTR Wicked instead of OTR Blue because timings didn't work that week. So again, strong effort from Gordon as well, and Shane's there, managing controlling the team. Quackers, Tim's in front. Again, there is nobody's dropped from Quackers. Ultraviolet. Jim's up front with Tony, Adrian and Neil. Ash, Ian, Ben and Noel, and so it looks as though Fred has actually just ended. It was just too far to try and catch up. So you got JP up front with Raj, DJ and Wayne. And they're all together. So all in all, everyone's looking fantastic. Lutz, again, thank you for recording with Ultraviolet. So just looking at how the teams, where they place themselves on the road, it's quite interesting to see. It's either favouring towards the centre or to the left-hand side. And I think that will change depending on the course. This particular course is quite flat and straight, as they just come into a bend. So, but yeah, it's relatively straight. And it looks as though pedallers have moved into that left-hand side of the lane from centre. So it'd be interesting to see, was that a tactic or is that just because of the steering and continuing with any steering particular problems? So Doug up front with Daniel, Henrik and Christoph. OTR Black tend to favour the left-hand side anyway. It depends on the course, but they will favour either the inside or the outside, but they typically don't ride in the middle. So Peter's out in front with Per, Keith, Tony, Nestor and Kevin. And finally ASRT with Arnaud up front, with Roman, Johan, Jojo, Cyril and Aku. And no one's been dropped, which is awesome. Apart from the cameraman. So I tend to just put it in erg mode and stay at a particular pace. It's just easier. You're not having to worry about things. So looking at the chart or the timings so far, so OTR Black and Peddlers have swapped, Mushroom and Ultraviolet swapped, OTR have gone up 2 and Eureka have gone down 2. But there's some really close timings there as well on the 10k splits. So be interesting to see how that pans out for the 15 and the 20 kilometre, and then finally to the end of the race to see, do you still have those teams in the same positions, or are they going to keep swapping? So with Eureka, Alfred's up in front with Brian, Stephen, and Johan has dropped. Well, he is now 70 metres back. And looking at the watts per kilo, doesn't look as though he's going to get back in. And they're just coming up to the climb, or they're on the climb at the moment. It's not that difficult, but they're on that climb at the moment. Australia koalas, again, doing a fantastic job. So who's got Jeff's up front with Wendy, then Michelle, Craig and Bruce, Bryce, followed by Dave. But again, no splits so far. And for quackers, they have dropped a rider. So is that Peter? Peter Ridley? Yeah, Peter Ridley's dropped. So you've only got 4 left. Ash, Ben, Ian, and Noel all together. Neil, Adrian, Jim, Tony and Lutz. So Lutz needs to go into erg mode. It's changing between 0.3 and 0.6. Though when I started, it was really difficult to try and ride on the bike, control your camera, follow the teams round, get the right views, and get it all recorded. So it can be quite difficult. Mushroom, so JP out in front with Wayne, DJ and Raj. Again, no one being dropped there. So the only one in the team so far is Peter. But you've got those big gaps with Australia quackers at the moment. So we just need to see that. So Dan's back, 30 metres? So hopefully they can get back on, because you need 3 to finish and record a time. Daniel up front with Henrik, Christoph and Doug for pedalers. OTR Black, strong as usual. You've got Peter, Per, Keith, Tony, Nesta and Kevin. And I think they stay together till right towards the end, which is super to see. And they're just about to come up to the climb now. ASRT with Yeno in front, Jojo, Cyril, Aku, Anud and Roman. But does see that Roman's having to get back onto the back of that group quite often. So let's see if he continues to stay with the team. He's dropping back again, as you can see. So he just needs to get back into that back wheel. Looks like Daniel's dropping as well from pedalers, so he's now 45 metres behind. So it looks as though you got Christoph, Doug and Henrik left to finish the race. And you got a few more gaps again now with Keith and Tony out front. There's a gap for Nesta, Kevin, Peter's there, and then Per just off the back of Peter's wheel. So with the timings, no changes to any movements, and no one within that 2 seconds of each other for now. So 20 kilometre splits. Still looking really good for OTR Eureka, and they've only dropped the one rider, which is Joanne. So Brian's out front with Alfred and Stephen. So super effort, guys. And again, for Australia koalas, exactly the same super effort from them. With Bryce, but you got Dave off the back slightly. Just need to cover that off. He's got about 4 meters just to work with Michelle. But that looks as though that's closing up. OTR Wicked, Gordon up front, and it's nice to see Gordon not hogging the front. because he's one of the really strong riders from OTR Blue, and gives the team the chance to do some of the work as well. So Shane's up front now with Paul, Andy, Sean, and Andrew. So thanks, Gordon, for helping with OTR Wicked. They really appreciated it, so thank you. And RTR, we dropped another rider. So again, Tony had a number of technicals, and he just wasn't able to get back on. I think it's the third week he's had technicals. Quokkas with Tim out front, and you got Steve is there as well with Dan. And as I said, they've only dropped the one rider, Peter. So again, team looking really good. Dingoes, Ash, Ben, Ian and Noel working together, though there's a gap between Ian and Noel. Just need to close that off, which they have done. Ultraviolet, slight gaps, but nothing too much. Tony doing a pull with Neil, Jim and Adrian. And as I say, with Daniel easing earlier on the climb, you've got Doug, Christoph and Henrik, and some really good times there. But you can see Pedlars have dropped out of that top three, replaced by 3R Mushroom. And some errors in the recording, so I just need to tweak those before I can publish it. 3R Mushroom, as I say, they've now swapped with Pedlars, so you expect to see that change in the timings later, with Wayne out front, JP, Raj and DJ. ASRT, couple of gaps now with Cyril and Aku, which they're now just closing off, and Arnaud just helping there as well to bring them back to Jojo, with Roman and Joanne up front. But Cyril is dropping, so let's see if he can get back on. OTR Black, slight gap between Pear Tony and Nesta, and you got then Nesta, Kevin, Peter and Keith group as well, so you need to get those back in. But looking at this, Keith has been dropped, so he put in a huge amount of effort for the team earlier on, so he has been dropped, and Peter needs to bring that wheel back because he's dropping slightly as well. But Peter's a huge workhorse for OTR Black. Well, they all are really, and the new arrival Kevin was fantastic, and he's been really strong throughout his time with OTR Black. And as you can see, with Mushroom and Pedlar swapping, you still have ASRT closely followed by OTR Black. So now the finish, we got Australia, Koalas and Eureka, so they've now swapped as well, so it looks as though you'll see that change at the final split times. But just coming towards the kite, so it looks as though we've got a gap between Sean and Andrew on OTR Wicked. RTR, other than what we talked about, which was Tony, Carolyn and Stephen dropping earlier. Sean, sorry, not Stephen, wrong team. Dropping earlier. You still got the three working well together. But you have got a change in Koalas, so Craig has dropped. So Craig is 236 metres back, and it does look as though you got Dave and Wendy have dropped as well. So you got Jeff is out there up front with Bryce and Michelle. So there's a bit of a gap, and I believe Wendy is our camera person. So you can be seeing quite a bit of Wendy. But it's great to see Dave there helping Wendy out. And they're just going to come into the finish soon. So they've got 286 metres left. Eureka with the three staying together, which is fantastic to see. They're just coming through to the finish line now. Same for each of the other teams. So well done, everyone. Unfortunately, we couldn't show the finish for Wendy. Australia Quackers, 1.3 Ks to go. You have, who's in front? Is it Tim? Yeah, Tim's in front with Steve, Toby, and we've, as I say, we've dropped Dan and Peter, and they're just coming up to the kite now, so the 1K mark. Ultraviolet, Adrian's out front with Tony, Neil, and Jim. I was going to say Henrik was out front, but he's not. He's now dropped to the back. Christoph's out front with Doug and Henrik. Henrik just needs to close that gap a little bit. And then you've got Ian, Noel, Ash and Ben. And we've got 750 metres to go, kind of. I don't know why Ultraviolet is slightly earlier. So Tony taking them out with Neil, Jim, Adrian, and Doug, Henrik and Christoph. 520 metres to go. Tim, Steve, Toby for Quackers. We've got 380 metres. So I think we're going to see Ultraviolet finishing first. Maybe I got the alignment wrong slightly. So Toby going out front, pushing the pace. Hopefully the others will get back in, which they look as though they're doing now, which is super to see. And Tim in the back. So Ultraviolet just finished in 36.07, Quackers 37.40, Dingo's 36.24. So awesome. And then finally you've got 3R Mushroom, OTR Black and AESRT. So other than Keith for OTR Black, we don't have any other riders dropping. As I said, Cyril dropped earlier for AESRT, but that's still a really strong team. And it looks as though Ness is coming back in, so Tony's giving him a hand to get back in onto that 1K mark. But they do need to try and close those gaps, or are we going to see Kevin, Peter and Per just ride off? Watch his space. JP on the front, so JP's doing the recording with Wayne, Rajesh and DJ. And then Aku, Arnud, Roman, Johan, Jojo for ASRT with 780 metres to go. And it does look as though on OTR Black you have Tony and Nesta easing slightly. So we're going to have Peter in front. You got Per and Kevin. I think they're going to finish as a threesome. 300 metres to go. Who's going to get this? It's anyone's game, isn't it? But not quite. So it looks as though 3R Mushroom was 34.50, AESRT 34.06, and OTR Black 34.34. And you've got Mushroom just coming onto the line now. Ooh. AST getting to the line with OTR Black. So no changes to the positions for the finish in the highlight show, but you have got that change right at the bottom between OTR Eureka and Australia Koalas. And looking at the results, AST have pulled out quite a big gap now between them and Black, followed by Mushroom, Peddlers and Australia Sharks. Hopefully one day we'll be able to see Sharks again. With League 2, Ultraviolet and OTR Blue are fighting out together. West London VR bringing up the rear of that group. So thank you for watching, really appreciate it. Do let me know if you want to see anything different. What we are going to do for week 7 is provide a bit more information on the teams within the leagues. So we'll probably have 3 highlight shows, one for League 1, 2 and 3, and focus on the riders in and teams in those individual leagues. Anyway, thank you for watching and enjoy. Take care.